All right. This is the Minnetrista City Council work session for March 16th, 2026. It is now 5:01. We will call the meeting to order. The items for discussion this afternoon are the 9550 West Hill Road abatement update, B, the Bayside Lane stormwater project discussion, and C, the Highway 7 TMO update discussion. Any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
All right. Then the first one.
Yeah. Let's see. What should I call you?
Kathleen.
President of the
Kathleen.
council. Kathleen. What we have today is kind of a continuation of our discussion about the abatement process related to this parcel and potentially another parcel just off of County Road 110 West. This is kind of our first time going through this as a city. And what I did is I asked our city attorney, Sarah Sansala, to kind of outline the process. So everybody's really familiar with it. And not only staff wise, there's a big part with our police department, city council touch points, just so that you guys kind of know what we're doing as we move this along. So there's a memo in here that Sarah prepared that kind of goes through the process. Craig is working through that process right now. We're kind of starting it, not necessarily over, but we're doing some things we've already done just to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And it sounds like if things go the way we think they will go, we will likely be looking at doing this administrative search warrant part, which is kind of the first part, sometime in early April. Now that we have snow again, we'll probably have to let that melt off this week. But then that would allow us to do an inventory of the property. And then we can bring that back to city council and prepare a report and go through that process. And then from there, you all will be able to determine if you want to issue an abatement order, and then we'll go through that process. So we have Sarah here if you have any questions for her. I'm not sure if you have any questions for me or Craig, but we're just kind of want to make sure everybody understands the process. So we're doing it correctly since it is our kind of first time as a city doing this.
Okay. Jasper, I think Sarah mentioned in her memo that the county might have or may do something. Have you investigated that at all, or?
We have not. I don't know, Sarah, if you can elaborate on that a little bit. She's remote.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely reach out to the county. I know lots of times they don't want to get involved, but I guess it doesn't hurt to ask. Sounds like the city hasn't done that yet. So maybe before you go full steam into this process, you might want to reach out to the county first to see if they want to have any involvement, because that would make things a little bit easier and we could use some of their resources.
Okay.
Yeah, and I dug into this a little bit, probably about 3 years ago, and there was a whole proceeding with the county environmental services, and I think this individual property owner ended up going to jail, I believe, for 7 days for just not abiding by what the county wanted to do. And essentially what I understood, and I talked to the environmental person who is still there at the county, this was 3 years ago, so we should reboot it, as Sarah said, but they indicated that it was kind of a city problem at that time, because there were a lot of environmental concerns with what is on the property, and that's kind of how the county got involved. And I think there was a citation that just didn't get paid, and then that individual just, I think, ended up spending some time in county jail. So, but this was, I'm estimating 25 years ago. So quite a while, I want to say maybe even 30 years ago. So, but we will definitely reach out to the county and see if they want to get involved. But I wouldn't, unless things have changed in the last 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Let's see.
Next, we have the Bayside Lane stormwater project discussion.
Yes, President Refkin. We have basically, there's been some developments with this as far as gaining access to the property. I don't think we have an issue with gaining access. We just have a resident that doesn't want us to basically install a pipe. So Allison is kind of the lead on the project, and Gary. I ended up meeting with this property owner along with Mayor Whalen last week. and got the gist of it. And basically it's, there's a well, this property owner's well that was installed. We're not quite sure, but either in our drainage and utility easement or right next to it. We think it's in it. So I think next week or the week after or so, there's going to be a survey done of the drainage and utility easement just to see where that well is. But so the underlying issue with the property owner is that there's this state statute from 1993 that gives guidance that a pipe that's 8 inches or larger in size, a stormwater pipe, shouldn't be placed within 20 feet of a well. The pipe that we're talking about installing is 4 inches, so it would be below that threshold. But the property owner is really leaning on that it's still a stormwater pipe, even though there is a 12-inch pipe within 6 feet of it that was installed probably like 3 months before this statute was adopted in 1993. So if you imagine a well right here, 12-inch pipe here, and then there'll be a 4-inch pipe kind of running directly along with the 12-inch line. So from our perspective, we have a drainage and utility easement that we can put utilities in. There's some, underlying state statutes that we have to be aware of. I don't think we're going to be violating anything with, but there has been the threat of legal action. So we want to make sure that, the project has been approved. We've signed contracts with it, but we just want to make sure we're touching base with this group to see if we want to continue to proceed with it. I'm not sure if Allison, Gary, if you want to add anything that I missed or misinterpreted.
Yeah, just to reiterate, so when the question came up about the separation between the well and the proposed pipe, A2S actually reached directly out to the Department of Health to get clarification on that. So we have that. And then we also included in the packet too, just summarizing the options that Gary and I looked at for resolving the issues at addressing the issues at 925. There's no easy option here. So I just wanted to point that out to the council that that's included in your packet for summary, that we've looked at multiple options here and came forward with the 4-inch pipe based for the reasons stated in the packet there.
And I'll just add to that, with the response we got from the Department of Health, they do mention that there is a 20-foot isolation distance, but anything over or greater than 8 inch. So the 4 inch does not fall under that. But one thing that they did put in there, and the neighbor is aware of this, we sent him this complete email, that they do say that, they have to maintain an adequate maintenance distance for them to do that. And my question to my staff, who Randy Storms and Mark Klein, who both were in the well industry for 25 years before coming here, drilling and installing and doing maintenance on wells, asking what that meant. And basically, if they were to seal the well, they would seal it, they would dig down, he said, and Randy said, 5 to 6 to 7 feet. They would snap off that pipe and they would just bury everything. So that's quote unquote what, the maintenance distances. They would not dig down to the point where they, would have to. I mean, they would pull this. There's no maintenance involved that would be interfered by this pipe going in and stuff. And we're going to try to keep this as tight as we can to the other one, give it as much room as possible. So, I mean, if that's, one of the things that it's going to rely on, we're going to meet all that. So it's just, we've got a great plan in place. We have a great contractor. I don't see an issue with this. We just have one neighbor that just plain and simple just does not want it, does not want to be helpful.
And sorry.
What was there first, the well or the utility easement?
So the utility easement, yeah, that was recorded with the plat. So, and then the well was installed. And then shortly after that, I believe the 12-inch pipe was installed. But
are all those homes on wells? I thought that was city water.
they are all on wells. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So, one thing I'll just convey this from that property owner is that they're concerned about contamination of their well. And really, thinking about how that contamination could happen, that pipe, the 4-inch or the 12-inch would have to break, fully understanding that that's storm water. It's not it's not sanitary sewer or anything like that. It's just stormwater. The 12-inch line is some surface water, but the 4-inch line would likely be pretty much groundwater, be coming from a sump underground and then pumped up, and or not a sump, but it would be a basin.
Mostly groundwater.
Yeah, so it'd be mostly groundwater. And in order for it to contaminate his well, it would likely have to contaminate the entire aquifer, and get down. That well is 131 feet below the surface. So that water would have to have some sort of contaminant in it and then infiltrate 131 feet down to the aquifer in order for there to be contamination. You can't say never, but highly unlikely for that to occur. But it's that is the concern. I just wanted to make sure that was conveyed to you all, that his concern is about contaminating as well.
And with wells in a utility drainage easement, the well code doesn't say that you can't do it, but it would be city, it'd be up to the city to say you cannot do it. And it's not any, there'd be absolutely no way if somebody came to us and said, we want to put a well in your drainage, in the utility drainage easement, that we would allow that whatsoever. I mean, it'd have to be a pretty big hardship to allow that because of the fact that if anything would ever have to get done in there where we would have to dig in there, even this well becomes even, a lot of work to be around. So.
You don't need a permit to put a well in?
You do need a permit, and this well was installed in 1993, and there's a well log and all of that stuff. I kind of alluded to us doing a survey of the drainage and utility easement just to see if there's something in there. If the well is in there, we'll likely bring that back to the city council. And, as you maybe are aware, when there are things in our right of way or easements, we can issue a license agreement that, I acknowledges that there's something in there. We give permission. We talk about, what it means to be in there. It's very close. It's either in there or it's within a foot of it. If it's within a foot of it, we don't have to do a license agreement, but we should probably look at it if there is, just, in case there's future issues. So likely, I think in the next couple weeks, we can get a survey crew out there just to see if it's in there or not, and kind of go from there. But I think you're hearing from staff, we don't think there's much issue with putting the pipe in. We just wanted to make sure you are aware of the property owner's concerns.
Has the person that's experiencing the flooding, has he talked to this homeowner that's objecting? Does he understand the magnitude of the flooding?
We're the property owners of 925.
Mhm.
Can I speak? So with this,
Can you state your name and address? for the-
yes, Gina Ittle, 925 Bayside Lane. I'm kind of representing that whole strip. Per se, we've been dealing with this for 26 years. Sherry Fisher knows who I am, and sad. But this gentleman, it could be 100 feet from his property. It'd be 1 inch and he would still have a problem with it. Does not play nice with anybody. I've heard that he's had multiple run-ins with the city multiple times. This is an easy access. This is all spring water. We're basically the lowest lot, 925 is the lowest lot on Bayside Lane on that side. So what happened is we're collecting it all, put in our drain tile across to the north, southwest corner. And we have been pumping it and going through pumps. And we've got 3 pumps running on our property. And it's still flooding all the neighbors because it's so saturated that when we get a lot of heavy rainfall, it has no place to go. It's so saturated. This was an easy access. It couldn't have lined up better. This would be a godsend. I mean, we've all spent many, many thousands of dollars doing everything what we could. Putting in basins, front, back, everywhere, pumps, you name it. This is an easy access, and I don't understand why someone wouldn't help their neighbors in getting rid of all this water and getting it directed to the lake. So versus causing havoc. And here comes spring. So here we go with storms, no electricity. People are afraid to leave their houses on storms, vacations because of this. So, all I have to say is let's, I mean, if the state approved it, if the city, everybody's approving it and it's within an easement, and I'd be also questioning, when he put his well in that close to the easement, there was that 12-inch drain pipe that's from his existing neighbor to the north. When was that put in that he doesn't have a problem with that, right? And that's, right?
Yeah, he seemed to have no problem with that, and that was put in
So
after as well, but, you know, so.
that's the confusion. That's the first thing I'm gonna think of is you put your well in that close to the easement, why? And then you have a 12-inch pipe that was put in. You had no problem with that. Why is that? Now you have a problem with a 4-inch clear water, spring water, just being diverted away to help dry up that area. So let's see where we end up with this. Thank you.
I take it he was the original owner, the person that's objecting.
Correct. Yep.
Sarah, is there any legal issues with us proceeding?
Madam Acting Mayor, members of the council, I'm not aware of any. The property owner has not, I mean, he says he's gonna bring legal action, but we have not seen any basis for the legal action, I guess. It'd be nice to see that, but I mean, I can't think of what the, what legal concerns he would be able to raise here.
Okay. And I mean, we can do what we want in the easements, correct? I mean, within reason.
Correct. I mean, I think it's a matter of, does this benefit the public? And I think it sounds like it's benefiting not just one property owner, but several. So I would say that's the public. And, it's being used for drainage and utility purposes by putting in a stormwater pipe. So it's not outside the scope of the easement. So I think you're within the scope of the easement and it's being used to benefit the public.
Any other? Wait, so Gary, when this goes in, is it like a big like drain, like a circular cover thing with like a grate over it and then the water goes into it? Or what does this look like when it goes in?
It'll just be, basically it'll be underground. It's just gonna be a clear, or just a small 4-inch pipe that's gonna be basically inside basically a rock bed. That's just where the water's collecting underground. That, will just transfer away.
How hard is it to construct this? How long would it take? How long would a neighbor be inconvenienced?
They won't hardly be inconvenienced at all for most of it. I mean, there'll be some excavation in the right of way where we need to make the connection to the storm pipe. But through his yard, the biggest thing you'll see are some, probably some marking where the route's gonna go, and then just have the guys going through there with their indicators to, as they're boring this pipe in the ground, they'll have location sensor, they'll put down to make sure their depth is going and where they're at and keeping it online. But as far as, there's not going to be a lot of disturbance. These residents will have a lot more disturbance because they're going to have a machine in there coming through their yard. They're going to have a bore pit in their yard, so I mean, as in the grand scheme of things, it's not much at all.
So we're accessing this from their side of the
Your
street.
side.
Yeah, we have the drain, we install drain tile in and outside of our home. And it goes full across to a catch basin way in the corner. We're disturbing all of that we put in many thousands of dollars to make this happen. Because we're using that as let it collect there and then take it away. So we're helping neighbors north, south of us. As long as it can happen, we don't care. It makes zero sense why anybody would even disagree with this.
And the tolerances are pretty tight. That's why we're gonna start there to make sure we have that depth that we need there to, make sure at the very, so when we hit the pipe there and we hit here that we have, the required fall, so.
Any other questions?
So what do we do next? Just send him a letter?
Continue to move forward as planned with the
Yeah.
project?
Yeah. So this is
That's the direction you want?
this is essentially a check-in and to see if there's any objections to us continuing with the project based on some of this new information. And if you want us to proceed, we will proceed.
I say proceed.
Proceed.
Yep.
Proceed.
All right.
Yay.
When is the work scheduled to start?
Once frost goes out, the contractor we have, I just talked to him. He has pipe ready to order. He's ready to go. So we just have to wait for the frost to get out and get road restrictions off, and then they can move in and start doing it.
All right,
Great.
sounds good.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'll let all the neighbors know.
Great.
I,
Thank you.
Barry, I'm sure we'll be in contact.
Yep.
All right, next, the Trunk Highway 7 update.
Yes, President Refkin. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit kind of an update about Trunk Highway 7, and TMO stands for Traffic Management Organization. So in 2024, I believe it was 2024, Kelly Morrison kind of authored a bill that allowed the establishment of a traffic management organization for Highway 7. The city of Shorewood was the city named in this bill, so they've been kind of facilitating a lot of the meetings that we had. There was essentially $200,000 of seed money that allowed us to study Trunk Highway 7.
You spent $200,000 studying Highway 7?
How?
Yes. Well, consultants. So
I'm in the wrong business.
but so that's where that is at. So this is about a year and a half kind of in the mix. And the cities that are involved with this right now are the cities of Chanhassen, Deep Haven, Excelsior, Greenwood, Minnetonka, Minnetrista, Shorewood, St. Bonifacius, and Victoria. So you can kind of see where it starts. It's kind of this western side. And it's in conjunction with this 2029 mill and overlay project that I think everybody's maybe heard of. It's somewhat controversial because there's these MnDOT recommended improvements that we will actually have MnDOT here on April 20th to discuss with the group and talk to you about what that means. From my understanding, and Allison I know is involved with this, is just those improvements are recommended, but they are unfunded. So they don't have money to actually do them. But if they did, they would, do a couple of these things. And one of them that I think everybody's heard of is probably the median that is proposed, basically from like Rolling Acres all the way into St. Bonifacius. So that would limit access significantly on and off. It's on and off through there. So that's just part of it. So this traffic management organization is trying to get organized, and there's we don't have a JPA or a draft JPA that I think is in any position to be shared. I think there's been one that's been floated around, but really the path that I think the group is going down, and there's a lot of fiscally conservative cities in this group that are, not necessarily wanting to sign into a JPA that has a financial contribution set annually. So it's just another one of those things where it's, a formula of some sort that determines how much each city pays. And we've looked at different formulas and they're all over the board. So one of the ideas, and we don't really have to take action at all today, like we can't anyway, but is to provide an update just about like kind of where it's at. But essentially the idea would be a JPA that forms and gets the group to collaborate, but there's no financial contribution. That doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be an ask in the future for, but there's no contractual obligation to pay. So for example, one of the things that could be asked for is a grant writer to write a grant for a grant that would, do some safety improvement to Trunk Highway 7. And depending on how much that costs, they would maybe split that between the groups equally. We don't know how this would work, but so there wouldn't be any financial, dedicated financial contribution to do any of this work, but there would be a group formed. So
if we joined a group and the group decided that they wanted to charge more, even if we were outvoted, we'd still have to contribute?
I don't think so. It seems like there's pretty good pushback from not only our community, but I'll just throw Chanhassen out there because they've been kind of vocal about it, but not to have any sort of set financial contribution, because there's another Trunk Highway 7 safety coalition that's more police related that has a very similar name that other cities contribute to. So there's been talk of joining with them to kind of look at, can we do things? Their missions are two separate missions, safety, but more enforcement related safety measures versus, putting up like actual infrastructure to help make things safe. So just that branding is something that we've talked about quite a bit as well. So Essentially what I'd like to discuss and have discussed amongst you guys is, do we want to, continue this, I don't know, journey, kind of forming this group? I think that, I don't know, unless there's somebody on council that wants to have us dedicated, or dedicate financially to this group. Personally, I think having a group that's formed that doesn't have any financial contributions might make it challenging for that group to be successful. But it would also, still leave an avenue open for, if there is a financial ask, for the group to still kind of maybe get some meaningful work done. Not that we would ever have to financially contribute. So it's very unclear how the JPA could look, but as these discussions are coming, Mayor Whalen and myself are the ones that kind of attend these meetings monthly. And we just like some feedback as far as what our community or what our city council would like to see, if anything. So basically the $200,000 is going to run out at some point in time. And SRF was the engineering group that got the contract with this TMO to get things established, study the mill and overlay project, and see what other MnDOT improvements they wanted to try to help get funded. So I think there's a funding request to the state legislature, similar to like what ours is for our water treatment plant, to fund those recommended improvements minus the median. So the one that would affect us, or that's kind of in our area, is the Wildwood intersection, which is somewhat timely with the development discussion that we've had recently. And that would turn into, I believe, and Allison, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a 3/4 intersection, kind of a right in, right out situation. Is that what they call that?
Right in, right, 3/4 intersection is at 44. It's a weird.
Okay, it was like, it's a green
Same thing
P.
at Wildwood too. It's kind of it's to prevent anybody from
Taking
turning,
left in.
making lefts from eastbound 5 to Wildwood.
Yep.
From 7, eastbound 7 onto Wildwood.
So, but again, this is not funded by MnDOT, and when they're here on the 20th, they will be very clear that none of this stuff is funded, and there's no money to do any of the improvements other than the mill and overlay.
Have the accidents dramatically increased in the last 5 years, 10 years? I mean, I live there. I turn on from 44 to Highway 7 several times a day. I've never felt like it was dangerous because I'm not on my phone and I'm paying attention. So I don't understand, what is this, $55 million they're looking for?
Well, for the mill and overlay project is, I believe, that much.
And then,
Mill and overlay project funded?
Yes,
That's in the
Yes.
budget.
yes,
that is.
So that's going to happen no matter what.
It will in 2029. So the potholes and whatnot that are
But-
currently
They're
there.
atrocious now.
I mean, I don't want a big
Yeah.
pylon going down the middle of my road. I think that's more dangerous. And, I would say increase, maybe this isn't the place to talk about it, but throw people in jail if they're on their phones and driving. I don't know what's causing the accidents.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it the increased traffic and the 2,500 more people out on Woodland Cove? And it's more crowded, or what?
well, most of the accidents aren't happening in Minnetrista. If you look at the map thing, they're all farther east. So, I mean, I think this is a waste of time because, one, I don't like any of these changes.
I
So
don't
why would
either.
I want to join a group that's doing things
That we,
I don't want?
I don't want them either.
Madam President.
I don't feel the road, I mean, I am on it multiple times. I don't feel that it's dangerous. I don't feel people are driving crazy. I think accidents happen, like the terrible accident at 44 and 7. But wasn't that just an accident? It was an accident. Terrible, terrible accident.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
would that, I don't know, I think,
Well, I live by 12 and they put the median in there and we haven't had any fatalities since. But so, I mean, there were just some horrible things that happened. And so I do think it's an issue we need to deal with, but it totally closed that road off then. I mean, there aren't going to be any more intersections there. And so, that doesn't really work here. So I agree with you on the median, but it seems like, it's it's kind of a country road that city people are driving on. They don't understand quite that you could get in a head on, if you do the wrong thing. And so I think we need to be involved to do something about this because it's just really dangerous.
Yeah. And the whole, if I may, the whole point of a traffic management organization is there's limited funding for all of these roads. And most of the major trunk roads in Minnesota have some sort of group that lobbies for additional funding for that road.
Isn't that why we have representatives in Hennepin County who takes our tax dollars?
You would hope so, but that's not, I mean, that's not really how it works. Unfortunately, it seems to be that the groups that are around the longest and have the ear of the representatives, not only our representatives, but all the representatives who fund different projects, lobbyists and whatnot, that seems to be that's the way that these projects get done. Now, some of them take decades. You might not see anything happen for decades. You might have some major improvements. I mean, 7 needs a lot of work and a lot of money, to really do it the correct way, I think. And that's not even being talked about. That project doesn't even exist at this point. But a traffic management organization group could advocate for such a project and could start talking about that project that might happen 30 years from now. But it is, I don't know, Allison, if you have any insight on it, but it's kind of the norm for these, Trunk Highway 5 has one, 494, 12 has one. There's all these different groups that have kind of an organized effort to advocate for local funding for those roads.
Yeah, I think when we look at what the study includes, it's a lot of improvements in the corridor. And when we look at, I heard council commenting on, well, Highway 7 out here in Minnetrista, we're not seeing those traffic volumes, which is true. As an engineer, I look at that as a guiding document. As Minnetrista continues to grow and the West Metro continues to grow, we look at access management for the future and setting things up in a smart fashion, and you have a guiding document. So I think that there's been some great preliminary work. And when we look at what MnDOT is looking to do with a resurfacing project in 2029, the discussion became, well, we can't do some of these intersection improvements that were identified, but the median is a relatively lower cost, and so should they explore that option? So I think that it's a good discussion to have with MnDOT representatives as far as understanding the goal of the corridor study to improve safety throughout there. But I think the council is bringing up some really good questions. Is now the time to do some of those median, to put in a median without some of these intersection improvements? And also, and they've been very receptive to this, this isn't like, up in Minnetonka or, for that matter, anything from not even Rolling Acres, but particularly 41 and East. There's no interconnectivity of the local roads in Minnetrista to other areas. Their only access for most cases is Highway 7. And so, and the MnDOT staff understands that. And I think that it's just a good opportunity to have those conversations. The concerns with increased, not just drive times, but certainly increased response times for emergency services if you're putting in that concrete median. So I encourage this conversation to continue. But again, just knowing that the guiding document, and I think just my gut feeling from the residents as a whole is they see all these improvements and they think it's happening in 5 years, and it's not. It's a long-term plan, but I think when we look at, as developing in Minnetrista, we certainly will turn to that document to look at access management so that we can keep the traveling traffic as safe as possible, if that makes sense.
If you look at Highway 5 as a private example, I mean, that was from the Eden Prairie corridor all the way to 41. That was on the books, when I was at Eden, when I was at Chanhassen way back in the 80s, that was on for 20 years before that, and it finally came through and happened. And now the other part of it that's been there has still been on the books for over 20 years, from 41 to Victoria, and that is finally going to be happening here this year, starting this year. So, you could be looking at 20, 30, 40 years yet, honestly, for seven. I mean, Highway 101 in Chanhassen was also on the books for over 50 years. Before it was upgraded and stuff. So, I mean, they're long processes. These are just, like you say, planning documents or CIP documents to kind of look at this stuff and figure it out. And, unfortunately, by the time it gets out to us, it's going to be, quite a while. It's unfortunate that the overlay can't happen before all the Highway 5 traffic gets diverted to 7.
Yeah, how long is the Highway 5 project supposed to last?
Up to at least 2 years.
Almost 3.
And all that's gonna get routed over to 7, correct? For the most part, I mean.
7 and to the county roads.
Yep, further south. Mhm.
Yeah.
So 7 is just going to get even more destroyed in the next years before they fix it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. So the traffic, if I may, the traffic management organization isn't something that you're going to see a quick fix on this. This is kind of a decades long group. And it's not to say that if there is a JPA, I think there is some value in it. Like, right, if we want to play the game of trying to get money for this road, which I think we hear a lot about, it'd be good to have an organized group of cities that can help advocate for that. Being that there isn't likely going to be a financial ask right away for it. Depending on how it goes, and if we can get, I know there's a bill right now to fund it again for another couple of years in the legislature, but that's kind of unheard of for these private TMO groups to actually get state funding. So I'm not sure if this is something we should continue to pursue, or if we should, there really is, to me, not harm in it, in us going to these meetings, because we do a lot of meetings, right? But if there's, it takes that next level step if there's like a financial ask. So that's kind of where we're at, just to kind of give an update on this, to see if you're all right, continuing down that path of continuing to meet, and at some point in time in the next few months, you might see a JPA come to city council for you to evaluate. Or if the direction is, maybe you should just kind of walk away. I think there is some value in it, in having a group. It's just the financial contribution is where you guys have to come in and make that decision, if that's
Which is going to be the
possible.
next step. If we do a JPA, then next they'll ask for money, which I think is wrong. And so I think continuing to meet and then doing a JPA would be a waste, because I don't think we should throw money at our state fixing a road. I'm already throwing money at the state fixing the road. That's my thought.
Well, I would think though, I'm not sure if disengaging though would be the right thing, because if they are the louder voice in the region, then it'll be a loud voice, and then Minnetrista's little squeaky voice, because
We're already going to be look at the cities on this list. They're not going to care what we want. I mean, Minnetonka's going to get what they want. They're probably they're the reason this needs to be fixed, because of all the accidents in Minnetonka.
Yeah, there's a lot of, right now, in my mind, they're going to fix the more high traffic,
Eastern.
high volume areas to the east. Eventually, 5,
Years.
10, 15, 20 years down the road, that'll be us. And I would hope that our neighbors would support us, this TMO would support us when we need that support.
Well, that's a good point. Like, so we throw money at it. We're not a priority on the fixed list. So even if we throw money at this group and continue to do these meetings, they're going to fix, again, all of our money will be going to other areas and other communities. I say this as someone who drives on Highway 7 twice a day, almost every day, actually every day. So.
And there is, one project kind of in our area that keep in mind, this additional $11 million ask is for some of the MnDOT recommended improvements. With that one being on Wildwood.
So why doesn't MnDOT budget for the improvements? Like, if they recommend this, they get a budget, they have a list of roads, why aren't they allocating their budget accurately to cover this?
Well, my take is that they are focused on maintenance first, right? Because this is a mill and overlay project. That's it. The safety improvements came after the fact, after that project was, slated and funded. And they're like, oh, by the way, if we want to do some other things to enhance it, we can do, this big list of things. And I think the other piece is that MnDOT doesn't receive enough funding to do everything that they want to do or that they need to do. I don't know if Allison, you're kind of perked up, you might have some more
The-
input on that.
The other thing I would also mention is though I'm not intimately familiar with the right of way through the corridor, I would venture to guess that MnDOT has a significant amount of right of way acquisition needs through the corridor, and that takes years. So they have to have a preliminary plan done, then they have to go through negotiation. So that's a multi-year process that adds to the project schedule.
Well, it sounds like some of the other communities don't want to put money in either, so I think I kind of agree with Brian that maybe just keeping talking, that keeps us in the game, and then if it comes to, it doesn't sound like other people are going to want to fund it either, so I think it couldn't hurt to be involved, to know what's going on.
So what's the JPA just sort of would solidify it or something? Because it sounds like people are meeting now already. So I haven't been involved in this. So I'm just asking as a outside observer. But what would preclude anyone from keeping meeting right now? Or what did the JPA just get more buy-in? Or
Yeah, why can't we just keep meeting without forming a JPA?
I guess
You could. I think it would just maybe have more of a backbone. I think, maybe optically. There really wouldn't be.
Isn't optics better if you literally list out every single city involved instead of just this one organization?
Yeah, I don't know. But that's generally how these traffic management organizations work, is that it's a collaborative of a bunch of different communities and stakeholders and things of that nature. But yeah, it is a long-term effort. One scenario I think that just popped into my head that, I think we should maybe talk about is if there is a financial ask of, let's say, $500 for a grant application or somebody to write a grant. How would you want to proceed with, if we would, even if we don't, let's say we don't even do a JPA and we just kind of keep meeting, if there's a grant for something, how would you want to approach that? It's $500 is a smaller amount, right? Would that be something that you would expect to come to city council, or is it something that could be approved administratively, or something like that? If we go down the path of, let's say the JPA wheels fall off and we don't do a JPA, but we still have a TMO and they still want to apply for things, that scenario could come up.
I think it should come to council.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see why, if we need grant money to do this project, MnDOT isn't requesting grant money to do this project. They have hundreds of employees. So if this is a priority to add the safety to it, then MnDOT has the staff and workforce to write grant proposals and ask our legislatures to do things. I mean, they've got so many employees. I'm looking at their hierarchy right now. It's ridiculous. Like, they literally have someone in charge of government affairs. They could be writing proposals. Again, I don't think we should throw money at it when there's an entire department for, Department of Transportation.
Yeah, what I don't want to happen, and just, is for us to miss out on any opportunities, because I think you're right, but I don't think that's the way it works. Unfortunately.
Well, it doesn't work that way because people keep doing this and throwing money at consultants and other people to fix things when the people who are supposed to be doing this aren't doing it.
The 200,000 close to being gone. Are they giving an update on that, or?
Yeah, it's pretty close to being gone. Yeah. I mean, it's been rolling for almost 2 years now, and, monthly meetings with multiple consultants at each meeting. That adds up over time. So, and that's part of the reason why the request is out there, for the legislature to fund it again. So from my perspective, I don't want to miss out on any opportunity that could potentially better Trunk Highway 7. I don't think there's much harm in hanging around, in this group, but obviously we'll take your direction, or I'll take your direction on how we want to proceed. But we are part of the Trunk Highway 7 Safety Coalition. I think that's what their official name is. They don't really ask us for money. They just kind of get more public safety centered grants that it's a larger group, but they kind of take that on staff wise. In this case, I think unfairly, the city of Shorewood's been taking on most of the administrative, things that, so that's part of the other reason is, they're kind of getting burnt out as well.
I can say no.
They can.
I have no problem with us continuing to meet, but I don't think we should do anything beyond have meetings. Your guys' council?
What does the joint agreement do more than just having a meeting? What's the need for that?
If there's no financial ties or financial contributions, it's just a document saying, hey, we're all in this together. I mean, that's about it.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be?
Yeah, isn't that the point of the meetings? But I just see if we do this JPA, then somewhere the next step is going to be, well, half of them vote to spend the money, and then the ones who don't are just going to be forced to spend it because of how the JPA will be developed and worked or coerced into it, for lack of a better word. If we just keep holding meetings, that's fine. But again, like I said, I don't think we should throw money at this, so.
Mhm.
Brian, your thoughts?
No, I agree with that. I was just almost thinking that if there needs to be two coalitions, a Western coalition, because I think our needs are significantly different than those of Minnetonka.
That makes sense.
That's yours.
Makes way more sense.
It's less expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe, there's obviously focus on the Eastern Corridor because of all the accidents, so higher population centers. So what I'm hearing is, continue to meet. Right? Is that, am I saying, hearing?
Yep.
Continue to meet, and then kind of go from there. I'll tell you, the meetings are kind of stalled out with the JPA talk, because there's a lot of, pushback about financing. We're getting some of the smaller communities saying, yes, let's do it, and the larger communities that would contribute more based on some of the formulas saying, well, let's take a step back.
Are the formulas based on population or home value?
Oh, no, not home values. Unfortunately, most of these are related to linear footage or, footage of road through your community.
Oh, that's even worse than
So,
for us.
Yeah, so we have a significant amount of Highway 7 through our community. So I think we were we were the number 2 contributor in some of the formulas. So,
Yeah, no.
but I can take this back to the group. I think we have another meeting in April, the feedback, and see if what other communities are saying too. But it seems to be somewhat similar to what we have going on.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could just add one thing, for the Safety Commission, we have a memorandum of understanding. And it is kind of nice because it lays out what we're going to talk about and it gives us a voice at the table. So it's not the same group, but very similar. So.
Would that mean that's a memorandum? That's just like a document, it's not a JPA for lack.
Correct, yeah. So
Makes sense.
you're not entering into a legal thing. You're just basically saying, this is what we're going to talk about and let's try to keep it to this. So.
That makes sense.
So MOA, JPA down.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else? Any other discussion? No. And I apologize, I forgot to say at the beginning of the meeting who's here. So I was acting mayor, council members Peter Vickery, Claudia Lacey, Brian Govern are here. Our WSB engineer, Allison Fowski's here. Our director of public works, Gary Peter, is here. Our assistant city administrator, Paul Ballman, is here. Our city administrator, Jasper Krugel, is here. Our director of finance, Brian Grimm, is here. Our chief of police, Craig Squires, is here. And remotely is Sarah Sensala, David Abel, and our city clerk, Ann Meyerhoff. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Work session is adjourned.
Wow.
Realize that immediately after I said it.